Obviously, you've got
No.
3 picks to try and sort through that, but for now, you've got to try and figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, Tiny's atrocious for egg hitting. If he gets hit by fire spirits, it's even worse. Grow does slow down your attack speed, so it's not a great feeling for the Titans to have to deal with that. You have room for, say, a Snapfire on the pause for AA5 if you want to go that route. Could give you a good way of dealing with the egg early on. It doesn't quite scale too well, that little shredder, as the Phoenix gets more levels, maybe even the talent gets up if it goes late enough, and the Ags can make it troublesome, but at least early on that gives you a solution. They go to Mirana instead, which can machine gun through the Phoenix Egg, as long as, again, you avoid the fire spirits, you get the leap in, you're going to get some good attacks off. So they've got one way to clear it out. They've also got some potential shenanigans in the off lane. There is still the option for the DK here on Lilgun's end, as it isn't banned out, and they could get the Mirana DK lane going for themselves, which is always scary no matter what. Like, those are great stuns, there's great damage to play with.
I think the DK would be quite nice here as well, because you've got a Tiny, you've got an AA, you've got a Mirana, right? Like, you want to take down that mid and top, or rather bot tier 1 tower for Lilgun's case, so you can start roaming the map and just trying to be very aggressive if you're Lilgun. The DK with the Dragon Form naturally going to make it so you push towers very, very quick, so I think it would kind of be suitable, but the problem I'm seeing here is you're against Hoodwink Phoenix, both of which can really get through your HP pool quite fast if you are a Dragon Knight. So instead, if you're Lilgun, you might want to opt to go down the offlane Sand King route, which we saw yesterday from OB Neon. I'm not sure if Lilgun feel comfortable with the offlane Sand King, but it was very effective yesterday from OB Neon, so Lilgun, they might be able to replicate that.
Yeah, it's a really solid combo to have with a Mirana. Gives you great team fight, pretty decent control as well. Have to say though, AG's lineup is looking scary. They get the Mamang Daya Kunkka.
Oh.
This is scary. This is one of his best heroes on mid. And there's something about Indonesian players with Kunkka mid that always works out. AG have run this multiple times. It's always surprised us when Mamang Daya gets to pick it up to sustain. With Kunkka Phoenix, building up on the Mars, maybe getting something tanky as well in the safe lane. It means that it's harder to get the burst potential from that Tiny going. The AA is still going to be annoying, sure, but it's just going to be hard to really get that snowball rolling for the Tiny if the Kunkka is on point with the boat and if the Phoenix is there with the Sunray. So it makes things a little bit more complicated for that Tiny. Lilgun do get the Life Stealer, which is great because now you can just rage out of Arena. You can rage through the Fire Spirits, twack away at the Phoenix Egg. Once that's up, you can rip through these Strength Heroes as well because of your passives. It always scales to the enemy's HP, and those are basically 3 Strength Heroes on AG's side, so the Life Stealer has a lot that it can do. Issue with Life Stealer is that it's very kiteable. Now, you don't have the best ways of stunning through spell immunity here for AG, and you can see the bandouts, they take out that DK and Sand King, so no option for those combos here for Lilgun.
You just maybe pick up something else that can get a stun out. What else is there? Like, what do you... It's kind of hard to really decide because AG haven't chosen their own POS 1 yet, so it's hard to know what you really want to go down. Could just go for team fight, you know, pick up something simple like a Tide. You can still kind of work with the Mirana. Gush arrows, pretty annoying as well. Probably not going to be that route though. Maybe just go for another kind of safe, easy stun to land. But they do seem like they need maybe some crowd control here, Lilgun. You know, you've got the Tiny, which is nice, but maybe something a little bit bigger for the side of Lilgun, because it does feel like Army Geniuses have much better team fight, and they do go for the Tide. There you go. So now you've got the Ravage, you've got the Gush, which is always nice. And really, no matter what they put in the POS 1 role for Army Geniuses, Tide should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Tide almost always has, at the very least, an even lane. I think when you're looking at, say, a Phoenix POS 5, it can be mildly annoying. At the same time, you're still fairly tanky. You should still be able to dip in and out, clear the creep wave, or at least go into the jungle if things get really bad. The one issue I have with the Tide is that you were talking about consistent lockdown. Ravage is a pretty long cooldown to play with, so you're still mainly reliant on your Tiny and the follow-up stuns from the Miran and AA. But every time you play with a Ravage, it's going to be a bit scary. Issue is, AG has their own team fight. Really good team fight as well, and the cooldowns aren't as long. Boat is not as long. Egg might be initially. Arena's definitely not as long, so the uptime for fighting there for AG is a lot better. I think for AG's side, what we need is a POS 1 that can play with that pace. Play a bit quicker, You don't want to focus too much on farming, or if you do, farm fast, and they go with the Dusa, which is a great tie-in with the Phoenix, great tie-in with the Mars. Stone Gaze, stand where the Phoenix is with his egg. You're not going to hit that egg at all.
Yeah, this is looking like a very challenging game for Lilgun here. Like, just based off draft alone, if we kind of ignore the teams, it does seem like a pretty challenging draft to try and make work. Mind you, with the Lifestealer, you know, you're going to have this Tiny, you're going to have this Tide. You can go for that kind of Blink Infest to break the gap against the Medusa, and you might be able to just kind of rip through her. Only problem being, though, it's easier to say that. Until you get into the game and you've got a Mars, you've got a Phoenix, you've got a Hoodwink, you've got a Kunkka. There's just so many ways to protect the Medusa this game. I don't believe Lilgun will have enough. Unless they can set a really quick tempo. But Army Geniuses can kind of do the same thing. They have this very strong mid-game timing. It's going to be very hard to compete with them throughout the mid-game. So, John, I'll ask you the hard question before we do get into Game 1. Who do you believe came out with the better draft for Game 1?
Gonna say AG off the bat. I mean, they've got the Dusa Phoenix, the Phoenix Mars, the Phoenix Mars Kunkka. Yeah. All of these heroes just fight really well. It protects the Dusa amazingly well, as you mentioned. Lilgun, the big issue I see is there's so much pressure on Sanctity to deliver a stellar performance on the Tiny.
Exactly.
He has to hit this blink timing by... We've seen 6-minute blink timings. I think that's what we have to see from Sanctity. It maybe 7-8 minutes max.
6 minutes?
Once you're... We've seen that once or twice. Like,
hold on. Calm down. He hasn't got the haircut for that, John. It's not Dota 1. It's not a 4-minute Lothers Edge, you know, mid-SF, 4-minute Lothers. It's, you know.
But we've seen it. We've seen it.
We've seen it
6.5 minutes, yeah.
It's all about the haircut, though, John. It's all about the haircut. Do we have a picture of him? Do we know what kind of haircut he has?
I would have to dig into the files, but I do believe I have it there somewhere. I'll report back once I find it. It's pretty deep. John. But... yeah, it's got to be a quick, tiny game, is my point. Like, maybe not 6 minutes, that's like a perfect game with 2 kills. But 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 7.5 to 8.5 is when we usually see a pretty good tiny game, pick up a blink. And that's what you have to get, because all the momentum is on Sanctity. He's the one that plays fast, he's the one that doesn't have long cooldowns, he's the one that can go hunting early with his supports. Not the Tide, not the Lifestealer. They don't go hunting. The Tiny does. And he has to start hunting that Dusa. Make that triangle uncomfy. Constantly rotate. Get some wards down. Get some kills. And if you can slow down the Dusa, AG, they'll be pressured to do something about it. They might just constantly run around with a Kunkka, with a Mars, with a Phoenix. They won't get as much EXP when they're clumped up. And you can kind of abuse that. So that's what Lilgun needs to do. It's a tricky condition to meet. But if they can get that done, there might not be space for the Dusa if it's under a lot of pressure.
Did you ever have the pleasure of going against the guy that had a 4-minute Lothers back in Dota 1 with the SF mid? It was impossible to beat those guys. They were just impossible. Let me tell you, John. They were different, those people. You know, hopefully they've lived a good life now. They're out there somewhere, maybe raising their family. It's been a long time. So, man, those guys, they were ridiculous. Shout out to those. If you were one of those guys in the chat, shout out to you.
Damn, those are some old days. I probably did, because I always bought Perseverance first. So I probably run into SF players who always got loaded.
What a noob.
Everyone does it. If it's not Perseverance first, it's Vanguard, every hero with a Sanjin Yasha. Yep. Which is sort of funny, because that was almost like our meta recently. So hey, you know, it goes full circle sometimes, Mike.
Well, Axe double Vanguard was a thing. I know you remember that. That was
yeah.
He was unkillable. You got double Vanguard, there was no way. You could not get through him. It's like double bash on Troll. You couldn't beat him once that double basher was up. It was he was just gonna bash you every single hit. At Dota 1, it was some strange days back then, John. We'll get into game number 1 of this series though. So it looks like there might be a bit of a fight over these bounties, but X123, he's not going to be able to reach, so Wami takes it. A 2-for-2 trade. A lot of colors in the river. This poor river's been very polluted by these two teams. It looks like they are going to leave it be for now.
That was a real war, by the way, Mike. They weren't fighting over bounties. They were fighting over who gets to paint the river.
True.
And I think in the end, X123 does win, so he's got the moral victory up. See a bit of a poke here with UK and Hishki. Fire Spirits do hurt a lot, but the arrow's there for Hishki in case he needs to bail out, and he's not going to stay too long for that trade. Is going to hook up in lane with Nomlog on the Tide. UK, of course, is laning up with DB on the Medusa. And this lane, Medusa versus Tide, isn't too bad. Like, you are ranged by a fair amount. You're going to have your mana shield at some point. You're going to be able to top up and harass after the snake. UK's got to be careful, though.
He's dead. Fairy Fire out. And yeah, he's gone. Hishki, he'll take the first blood. Bit of an overextension there from UK. He tried to take the shortcut back down to the lane, but he gets punished for it. And it's one of those things with Phoenix. Until you're level 2, you never really feel quite safe.
Yeah, it's just always slightly uncomfy. You are sort of securing space out for DB, but he's not really getting as much farm as you'd expect. Missing out on a couple of last hits does hurt Medusa, and I was told in lobby, I don't know if you were there for this one, but I was told in lobby by DB to not point out any of his mistakes, because he's been playing a lot of Atomic War instead, so I'm going to try to not, but it's my job, DB, I can't promise you.
We'll have a look back at DB. I'll be watching him very closely because he didn't ask me, so I'll be pointing out every mistake he makes. Mamang Daya mid lane against Sanctity on the Tiny. This should be a heavily favored Conquer lane. It is Mamang Daya, you pointed it out. He is a very, very good Conquer player, and I don't think the matchups really change too much. Like, you might be able to secure your CS to the Tiny, but Tidebringer's really going to hurt.
You can see it already. I mean, he gets the Avalanche toss, but Mamang Daya is still winning that trade. And Sanctity is going to have to really be cautious in that lane. It's just not very fun. Maybe once you hit your 6th spike, you can look for the nuke, but oof. You just the torrent as well. Oof.
He wouldn't have died anyway to that torrent. He had the bottle charge going, but nice little attempt there from Mamang Daya. Yeah, we'll have a look back at this mid lane at, maybe a little bit later on. There's certainly some kill potential. Of course, top lane, you've got Wami there with LYM and Wami there with X123 and Ace 12. This lane, John, do you think it's favored towards the side of Lilgun, or do you kind of look back the way of Army Geniuses?
I think AG's got a good hold on that early on. It's a melee versus melee matchup for the Mars, so he can just harass out with the God's Rebuke and Spear, although...
Yeah, Nomlog ends up going down. Nice little pick up there from DB and UK, and it looks like they're Marana, Hishki. He just wasn't around the area. He ran off to the mid lane for a bit. Ends up leaving the Tide, and they do manage to punish.
Yeah, it's a great pickup to have. DB getting that kill kind of helps him out as well, to compensate him for the fact that UK bled out that first blood early on. And the lane is starting to look a lot better for DB. The last hits aren't coming in for Nomlog. It's still a bit slow for DB, but it's building up. And once this Dusa hits a pretty good stride, say level 5, level 6, you just look to the triangle. There are no stacks yet. In fact, that triangle has been blocked out by Lilgun, so they understand the tempo that Army Geniuses wants to pull off. We'll see if AG does get those D-wards down the line, but for now, if you have this kind of a smooth start in the Dusa, you can't really complain.
I hate the fact that we're in this this warding meta in the camps. It's so annoying. Like, it's such a boring meta, right? Like, if you're pos 5, you've basically got to buy 2 sentry wards straight off the bat. Like, that's your starting items. If you don't, your camps are going to get blocked and you just kind of get ruined. In fact, speaking of camps blocked, they are blocked. The small camp is actually blocked right now on the safe lane of Army Geniuses. Just a very annoying meta to have to play in if you're a support.
Yeah, it's just a big pain, and they don't really have sentries here on AG, so they can't build up that form for their Dusa down the line. You need to really fix up that triangle area in particular and kind of work from there. For now, though, gonna hold steady, 1-1, less than 1k lead going the way of Lilgun, and that's fairly good news for them. They need to be online fast. Sanctity's holding his mid quite nicely now as well. He's still not winning out the right-click trades, but he's finding farm. So eventually he's gonna hit his timing with a blink, and he should be able to take some activity at that point. It's not the fastest, but he's not completely losing out the lane, which is fair enough up against Mamang Daya's Kunkka.
No, absolutely. Yeah, every lane just going quite smoothly now, as we do see Hishki actually arrowing a creep and taking it off DB. UK, he's going to try and cut off the Marana, but, Hishki, he's got 2 leap charges. He's going to be fine. No stress for him. I'd say the one kind of worst lane right now, apart from that off lane, is going to be the safe lane for Lilgun, but even X123's having a decent enough time. Like, yeah, he's 5 CS behind the Medusa, but...
Nomlog?
It's quite negligible as, yeah, Nomlog bot lane is going to drop again. Hishki's going to try and trade, but the Fire Spirits are there. He'll Fairy Fire through. He'll kill, going for the kill. He won't get it. And John, if there's one thing you don't want to give a Medusa apart from farm, it's your own life. And they just gave 2 of them.
I mean, 3 kills total for DB. Fantastic start from Medusa. They just need a space for him to farm. He's going to be stuck in this lane going forward, which is great. You really do want some stacks up. For now, I guess if you're finding kills, you don't really care for that. They did manage to get the D wards. They're not going to be able to push as, well, you've got a Phoenix backup who's still playing low in the lane, has the salve, is going for the pull. But you're at the point as Medusa where you're basically unbullyable. You have level 6 pocketed as well in case you need that gay, so you can't really commit for Medusa now.
Well, Sanctity, he might start going for a bit of a roam here on the Tiny. Looks like he's trying to be a little bit disruptive towards Mamangdaya and does actually take 2 of his creeps away. You talked about Sanctity earlier on during the draft, but it is going to be very important for him to have a good game. So far, so good. Like, he's second in terms of CS, having a pretty darn good time, no real stress for him. Obviously, he's nowhere near the blink as he has opted to go for the smaller items, but you expect sooner rather than later he's probably going to try and make a big rotation now.
Yeah, he needs to leverage that burst potential coming through with the avalanche toss here. Maybe you could look at the Dusa again. Like, she is fairly tanky, but right now DB has kind of used up that pocket skill point for more split shots. So she doesn't have a gaze. Would be a timely moment to make that rotation. It looks like Sanctity might be lined up for it. He's on his way down, but they've got good damage here if they commit.
No vision as well. Oh, there actually is vision. They do have a Radiant Ward going, and it does get pinged out by Hishki, so it looks like he was kind of already aware that that was there defensively. And so, a bit of wasted time here for Sanctity as he does have to run back into the mid lane. Now the X is out as well. They're going to try and go for a kill onto this Tiny with the turret and the boat. They've even got LYM around with the bushwhack, but do they have enough damage? Sanctity's actually quite tanky here in Wami. He's TP'd in, but the TP, it took way too long. He came in after the hoodwink. And that's a 3-man TP rotation that it just amounts to nothing.
Yeah, it's a lot of time wasted. Lilgun using that time well by shoving in the top. X123 gets a lot of space for himself on the lifestealer to kind of play catch up. And you're pretty happy about that for Lilgun. Like, you don't lose your Tiny. You lose out on the first boat coming out from Mamangdaya, and you get a kill.
This is a build-up I haven't seen for a while, John. Helm of the Dominator, excuse me. Sanctity rushes in, haste rune up. He'll go after the hoodwink instead and clears out LYM, who just TP'd in. At the very least, DB is going to remain safe on the Medusa. That is a very nice ward for Sanctity to find on that Tiny. And he even finds an Ocean Heart, just in case he needed the regen.
Yeah, it's always great for every mid to have, since you're stuck basically by that riverside for the most part. They are still clumping up for that push bot, and that Helm of the Dominator on Nomlog. I guess that does give them some stun. Like, they've got the Centaur stun on hand. That was something they were lacking outside of, say, Ravage and Avalanche Toss. They've got some way of reliably starting to fight. Heck, they could maybe toss the creep forward for the stun as well with their Tiny if they want to play it that min-max. And this push should go smoothly as well. They've got the early Orb of Corrosion up on X123 tower. Does not take too long to fall. AG are not in position to counter push. Instead, they're just giving DB space in that triangle to clear out stacks. But the loss of control here could hurt them if they don't manage to get that trade going soon.
Yeah, so far so good for Lilgun. First tier 1 tower down. UK going to be very cautious. He'll go for an Icarus dive out. Hishki, well, he didn't have the arrow anyway, so he can't really throw it out. Instead, of course, the rest of Army Geniuses, they're going to start setting up on that top tier 1, and that should be a fairly easy kind of tier 1 to take as well. No defense here from Lilgun, they're just going to let it go. Instead, however, if you are Lilgun, you can start working towards that mid tier 1 tower. Now that you've freed up your Tide, and of course he does have the Helm of the Dom, which does help with the push quite a bit. But now though, it looks like Nomlog, he's going to farm the Radiant side jungle. And while that's happening, X123, surprisingly enough, is going to start applying pressure onto the bottom tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, mid lane, oh, that was an interesting spear out. Now he drops the arena. They should be able to get the kill anyway, but it's taken them a bit more than they would have liked. UK, he's going to be able to back. Hishki going to move in. Wami, he's being targeted. Nomlog here with the Ravage as well. There's a stun out. Not Wami, he's going to die. Pretty messy kind of team fight here from Army Geniuses. They do eventually they do get the better end of the trade. It's not amazing, but they get the better end.
They get the Tiny, the pretty good kill to slow down that blink. Not the ideal use of the Sphere. Maybe they were expecting the Acorn shot first for the tree and skewer it on there, but didn't quite line up the way they wanted to. A bit early to fight as well for UK. No egg. If he had the egg, I think they could have committed more still. Lilgun, knowing that at least the arena's down, they've got Ravage, they're smoked up, looking for an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, with the Ravage up, you just want to get it on cooldown if you can. Especially if it would give you a big kill and... Well, X123, he's going to start baiting for the team. That mid lane, they've got the siege creep up, but they've also spotted Mamang Daya, and that'll be a massive pick off if they can get it. There's your Ravage, there's your arrow, and it'll be a nice, easy kill. That's what you want to see from Lilgun, just applying that pressure early on. They even got a bit of damage onto that mid-tier 1 tower, so all is very good here for this dire end. Even LYM getting caught by Sanctity now. That might be the mid-tier 1 tower gone.
Yeah, they can't really fight now. They've got Arena, they've got Egg. They're not in position to use that. UK is all the way down bot. He's TPing now, but I don't know if they have got enough time to set up here.
We'll take it, Lilgun with the fort. They might just back as Wommy. He's looking for a big arena, and Sanctity would be a great target. He drops it. A nice spear as well. Do they have the damage output? They'll drop the egg, but Hishki, he's right in after that egg. It looks like he might be able to get it in time, and he does. Ace 12, he's quite low, and he might be the only one to die. So 1-for-1 trade in the end. But you do commit quite a bit for that from Army Geniuses. And of course, they wanted a lot more than just an AA kill.
I think if you look at it this way, they defend their tier 1 mid, and they're buying so much space for the Dusa. The trade-offs are worth it. You trade supports in the end, you drop a couple of volts, they already lost Ravage early on from LG's side, so you're fine with throwing your own spells. But you're getting more from DB. Look at the core-to-core comparison. DB is about 1.8k ahead of the Lifestealer, and it's always going to stay that way. The Deuce is just so much more efficient in the jungle, so much faster in clearing out the waves compared to a Lifestealer, that you're always going to win out even if you trade evenly like that in the hero exchanges. So you're perfectly fine with this for AG. For Lilgun's part, they have that Blink and Sanctity. So they've got the movement, the jump potential to catch a hero out, and this is where things could turn around for LG. If they start finding the big kills on the Dusa now with Sanctity, with a smoke, that's where things can get a bit dicey for Army Geniuses.
They're definitely going to try. It's not going to be an easy kill though. Like, he's got the Manta up, he's a bit tankier than he used to be, and LYM is in position to break the smoke. Meanwhile, bottom lane, they found a very nice target there, John. They've got the Lifestealer, and they're going to get him. X123. That's one of the worst things that can happen to your team, right? Like, you go for a smoke thinking your pos 1 safe, you miss out on their position 1, and then your pos 1 dies. Terrible scenario here for Lilgun.
Yeah, it's not what they imagined would end up there. You can still see that they are still setting up around that triangle area. The D-Ward does make it obvious as to where they were. Wami.
Looking to move in. Sanctity would be the prime target, but they may have to settle on Ace 12, who does get spotted. He tried to be a little bit sneaky there, but he'll have a laugh as he dies. At the very least, it wasn't Sanctity who's dying, although I say that, he went back in after DB. Arrow's going to be there, and Wami's going to have to take him. At the very least, they won't get arena'd up in that Tiny. But now the mid-tier 1 is going to be chipped away here by DB. They've got the arena, they've got the egg. Nomlog, he's got the Ravage up on the Tide, but it's going to be a bit of a challenging defense without that AA. And as soon as he does respawn, Army Geniuses, they just back off.
I don't mind this too much from AG. They can afford to sort of take it slow. They need to focus more into defense rather than pushing themselves. Lilgun, though, they've got Ravage. They want the smoke. They still need to use that Blink here.
Now, YM's going to break the smoke, it looks like, but the Moonlight Shadow is not going to be broken. Still, they are underneath the Sentry, and LYM, he did spot them out. He'll go for the Bushwhack, but the Avalanche is out. Still a nice arena there from Wami. Will save the day for LYM, but who's going to save Wami? His team's kind of abandoned them. They've all backed off, and LYM, he's died anyway. Now the Ravage is out. Ice Blast connects, and they get another. Ooh, a bit of a mistake there as they're going to try and fight now. The egg is down. Maybe they can try to clear them out of the boat. Does fly in onto Sanctity. Egg going to explode as well. They will at least get the tiny kills. They now go onto Nomlog. Sunray is there. Egg going to fly in onto Mamang Daya. UK, he's gone very far forward. That's going to cost him his own life. And in the end, it's been a 1-for-3 trade. I mean, you got Sanctity on the Tiny, but if you're Lilgun, you've got to be happy with that.
Definitely. You managed to get probably the best 2 kills you've gotten with your spell so far with Ravage. Great blink reveal as well. You don't catch out the Dusa, but you have gotten enough to force AG to be a bit shaken, and that's what we were talking about. If you apply enough pressure, AG might respond in ways that aren't optimal. DB has to show up to kind of fix that fight with a Stone Gaze. He doesn't really get the kills himself. It goes on to Mamangdaya. LG, for their part, they can just keep playing around with its tiny blink. They don't necessarily need Ravage from Nomlog. As long as Sanctity's willing to throw his body forward and keep that hunt going, keep that pressure up, you're still in a really good spot for Lilgun to constantly take this aggression. And for AG's part, I mean, they do have low cooldown ultimates. Like, Egg is the only one on CD right now beyond Stone Gaze. It's only about 40 seconds off, so they'll have a window where Ravage isn't up and all their spells are. And that's when AG needs to play. They need to start forcing some pressure onto the side of Lilgun to ensure that DB's not going to have to drag his Medusa over to help those fights.
Speaking of DB though, like, his farm is escalating way too quick. Like, compared to the lifestealer, he's just about 3.3k ahead. It's definitely very bad news for X123 and his team. He'll try to catch up now on the bot side of the map, but while that's happening, DB, he's just going to go after that top tier 2 tower. No problem whatsoever. Just slowly start chipping away while Lilgun, they're going to try and cut off this tier 1 mid. Glyph is going to be there. Nomlog, he'll take the front line, but the rest of Army Geniuses are now going to back off to try and defend this. They aren't going to make it in time for the defense, but they might be able to force the team fight. So X is there. They've got Nomlog. They'll get the torrent. UK, he's going to dive in. There's the arena out of the egg, right in the middle of that arena. X123, he thought about going after the egg, but it is too late. He needs to run, and Wami's going to be on the chase. They already committed the rage, but not the infest. Sanctity, he'll be fine to get himself out. He might even reinitiate. It's a bit of a challenging reinitiation to go for here for Sanctity. If he's going to try, Manta is out. X123, he jumps out of the infest back in onto DB. Sunray healing up, but now the avalanche toss is massive, and they found the Medusa. Massive avalanche toss there from Sanctity as they even ignore Wami. They'll go after UK instead. That's some really nice plays here from Lilgun, as they don't even lose that mid-tier 1 tower. And Army Geniuses, they've got to be a little bit more cautious about these team fights, John. Like, you've got DB who's been farming so darn well on this Medusa, but you lose team fights like that, and it's going to put him behind.
Yeah, he's still ahead for now, but losing your Medusa does give opportunities for Lilgun to catch up. The gap does narrow every single time. The Medusa isn't farming. The Medusa is forced to join fights. And for AG, what we're seeing is a very scattered response. Like, Mamangdaya was the only one nearby that mid-tier 1. Everyone else was still hanging around that top jungle area. And that's where it fell apart. They need to stick together as a unit of 4. Like, if you had Mamangdaya plus Wami around, plus UK around with the Phoenix, you might have gotten that defense on.
Oh, Wami, he's been spotted. Ice Blast already connecting. He'll try to pop the hood, but it's not going to help as Lilgun just continue to find more great kills across the map. I even like the way they're just cautiously backing off. They're not trying to overextend. They're not trying to rush this game. They understand that X123, he still has a lot of farming to do on this lifestealer. It is going to take some time.
Yeah, I think for their part, I mean, Lilgun, they've got Ravage. They don't need to be as cautious. They get the Echo Saber done as well on Sanctity. So his damage output is just way up there. And he's also a lot more durable in the front lines now as well. AG, they need to stop going in 1 by 1. They need, again, just stick as 4 if possible, maybe 2 or 3. But definitely not solo. You can't just afford to solo defend. You know Lilgun's going to bring numbers down to keep those fights going their way. And they need to play around with the synergy that each hero has with each other here. They need to have the X boat, the arena, the egg, at least a combination of 2 of those spells. Each time they engage first, everything else can follow up after. So just more coordination, I guess, is what we're looking for from AG. But Lilgun, they've played it really great. This is exactly how the draft needs to be run. They've gotten a great tempo off from Sanctity. They've controlled the bot jungle now, and Sanctity just giving a bit of a chase to UK. Did miss the avalanche, but
He's got the avalanche, or rather the toss now. UK, he's going to try and Icarus dive, and, well, you can still Sunray off the map. There's no real stopping that. They try to Ice Blast off the map, but that's not going to work either. It's too late. Nice little attempt there from Ace 12, though. When are they going to fix that, by the way? When's this Sunray going to stop dragging people off the map?
It's not a bug. What do you mean?
Right.
It's a feature. You're supposed to be able to fly off the map. It's intended design.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't remember that being a thing in Dota 1. It might just be my terrible memory. I'm pretty sure you couldn't do that in Dota All-Stars. Nevertheless, Army Genius is going to go into the Dire jungle. DB, he's going to start on the tier 2 top tower. Siege creep there. However, there is going to be a defense. The TPs are coming in, but they've got the whole side of Army Geniuses around, so this is not going to be the easiest of fights, as Wami is already in, but a nice leap away. They've wasted the arena completely, and now Nomlong, he gets a big Ravage off, but they got the boat in, they've got Sanctity, and there goes UK as well. The Phoenix down onto Wami now, the Ice Blast. It's going to make it rather easy to take down the Mars. And it ends up being a 2-for-1 trade thus far. As Lilgun, they want a bit more. They'd love to get DB, but the Bushwhack is there from LYM. Arrow, is it going to make it? Not quite. He had a leap charge. Perhaps he could have made it in time, but Hishki had no leaps available. Nevertheless, it's still a decent trade for Lilgun. And honestly, I feel like X123 being able to farm up for just longer and longer on this Lifestealer is probably going to pay off.
It really is. Like, he's not too far behind Adusa, just about 3k gold. It has increased that gap between Adusa and Lifestealer, but at this point, you've got items to play with on the Lifestealer. He's got the disarm. It's going to cause big issues for that Dusa if he does get focused on. So DB's got to be a bit careful there. Interesting build-up on DB as well. He opted for the attack speed, and he's not going ag.
Oh, never mind. LYM is going to be just fine. Mid lane, they got an arrow, they found the Conker, the Ice Blast is there, but do they have the follow-up? He throws the boat out, but X123, just look at him rush forward. He won't be able to close the gap though. So they get an arena down, but Mamang Daya, he dies anyway. Onto the Medusa now. Looks like DB, he's going to try and find him. That's a great bushwhack, LYM. He catches both of them. DB, he can just get to work now with that Eye of Skadi. He takes down the Lifestealer. Onto the Tiny now, Sanctity. He's going to try and run, but he cannot. Now, the Tide, he just kind of walked in to try and help out, but Nomlong, I don't think he can really do much here. Stone Gaze is out from DB, and that's going to spell all she wrote for Nomlong and Hishki. They get trapped up, and they are probably just going to get bursted down by DB. And I say bursted, it is a rather slow process. But it is also quite a painful process here for Nomlong, as the Ice Blast is going to fly through. Does eventually go down. There you go, DB gets it done.
That took way too long, but Army Geniuses finally find that win they were looking for. Jumping the Kunkka, it was a good idea, but just not enough burst damage on hand to clear out that Kunkka. Like, they just weren't able to melt Mamang Dai at this point. He's got the BKB, he's a bit tankier, he's got the cloak to resist some of that magic damage, and it just barely kept him alive long enough. That's a very early rage use as well from X123, so he was actually stuck in the arena. And that's the big difference. He's been very patient with how he engages here. He felt pressure this time, so he couldn't dodge out the control coming out from AG. And with a Scotty up in DB, it's just a different power spike for that Dusa. Now, going back to DB's Dusa, though, he did go for attack speed. He went for the Stone Gaze duration as well. He's not going for the Ags at all. Like, he's going for MKB first. He's going pure right click. And I like seeing that from AG. Like, they know the Ags is a bit of a one-trick pony. It's still really strong, but they're just they're emphasizing the fight potential of the Dusa, and it is scary when you have a Dusa that can just machine gun you down with a Scotty. Like, it takes a while with no damage items yet. Maybe a Daedalus down line would help the cause, but it's certainly getting to that point where DB's damage output is quite scary for how durable he is.
Yeah, I mean, the Scotty makes it very challenging now, especially for X123, who, you know, naturally he wants to get in and just get the damage out onto this Medusa, but that just becomes so much more difficult now that I have Scotty slow, and obviously the lifesteal being altered as well. It's gonna hurt, that's for sure. Army Geniuses, they've almost got an MKB up as well on DB, so that evasion that you've got on the Lifestealer with that Heaven's Halberd, it's not going to matter so much anymore. It's going to be rather tough for X123 to be able to survive through the Medusa Stone Gaze and whatever else they throw out. Lilgun, I mean, they had a great kind of game going for them, but I think as the net worth lead just gets further and further between DB and X123, the game just looks more and more impossible.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get tougher. That MKB's done on DB, so he has such high attack speed. 0.46 between each attack, and they're collapsing here.
They're gonna try onto UK, but he can just Icarus dive out. They seem to know that Army Geniuses are all together. They won't overextend. But Army Geniuses, their eyes are set on that top tier 2, and it is already quite low as it is. But they look to try and finish it off and perhaps just take the outpost of the Dire side. That'll just assist them in taking more of the map and just allowing DB to escalate in farm even more. The Moonlight Shadow's going to be popped. Infest is there. Nomlog. They want to jump in for a fight. Arrow is barely not going to connect, but there's your Rabbit Jump. They want to try and burst DB with the Ice Blast, but the Arena is down. Now the Egg right in the middle. Which one do you choose to hit? DB's gone. He's out of range. The Lifestealer, they'll go after the Egg instead, but they've lost Hishki, they've lost Nomlog, and now Sanctity. He's trying to run, but he just can't get away from this Medusa. They had to decide which target they wanted. They chose the Egg. In the end, it was a very hard decision. And a very good egg placement there from UK. And that really is what just won them the team fight.
You know what it was as well? Wami was using his Bulwark to block the hits on the egg.
I forgot about that.
He blocked like 2 or 3 hits, and it's like, it's blocking the melee hits as well. It's like, oh man, that's such a sick combo. It just stalled out that entire engagement. And we were talking about the itemization on DB. He is going for the Daedalus. He's got the crit stick up. You go into the Roshan. There's no outpost to TP to for Lilgun. There's no Ravage. They can't really fight in there. They can scout for the Ice Blast. It's not going to stop the Roshan unless they run up. But without their Tiny with a Blink, it's just a tough proposition. So first Aegis of the game going the way of Army Geniuses. This is going to protect DB, allow him to look towards that high ground when he wants to. There are still outer towers here from Lilgun. Mid tier 2 still stands. Bot tier 1 still stands. A bit of a mirror situation for both sides in terms of what's left on the map. But you've got that safety net. You've got a 5k lead on Army Geniuses. And we're reaching that point where the Dusa is just the be-all and all carry. The Lifestealer, it does have some scaling towards late game. We've underestimated Lifestealer a couple of times late game. It just doesn't hold a candle to how a Dusa works, though. In this specific matchup, Dusa is definitely a lot scarier, and I think Lilgun have to understand that and have to play a bit faster here.
A bit of a cheeky play here from X123. He's going to start pushing in that bot lane and just force back at least one. Mamong Daya, naturally with the X back, is just going to be able to clear the wave. He's going to be able to delay it as mid lane. Ace 12, he tried to go after the ward and he does get it, but it's going to cost him his life. If they go high ground right now, it'll be very challenging to defend without your Ice Blast from the AA. And Army Geniuses, they might opt to defend bot lane as X123 and Sanctity. They're going to start pushing it in, and they're pushing it quite fast, but it is going to be a bit of a race. Backdoor protection, however, kicking in there for Army Geniuses. They have TP back Wami. He's going to jump in with the Arena. He'll just buy some time. It's the rest of his team now. They're going to TP down and try and help out. Looks like they have gotten the Lifestealer out of there. And Sanctity, he will be able to blink as now Nomlog. He's chasing down some targets, but he's not going to find anyone. Everybody gets out just fine. But Lilgun, they got a lot of damage off. In fact, that tier 3 tower, 78 HP, is just about to drop.
Yeah, and they're going to get that tower lead if AG don't find a way to just constantly keep that bot wave shoved in. They need to be disciplined enough to at least have one. Wami being there could cost them, though. It feels like they rely a lot on a good Arena to set up for that egg, to set up for the boat from Mamong Daya, to allow full value coming through from that Stone Gaze on DB. So they have to be a bit cautious when they're not clumped up here on AG side. Lilgun can look to use that to their advantage. They've got Ravage ready on Nomlog. They can look to make a play if they want to. It looks like AG will just hook up towards that bot lane and maybe look to just shove in the bot racks down the line instead.
AG, bot T2 tower now under siege. Solar Crest obviously going to speed things up there with DB, and Now, AG, they really have just so much control over this game. Very hard to see Lilgun being able to push it back now. Could just be one team fight that they need to win, but winning that team fight against the Medusa this farmed up is going to be very challenging. And there you go. Tier 3 tower. Arrow not gonna be hit. Nomlog has already lost so much HP, and now the sharpshooter is gonna connect onto the AA. So much damage flying in from a distance. Avalanche toss, but the arrow did land. They might be able to find her. Ice Blast connects, they get the Aegis. That'll be the first life, but can you get a second? Ravage is there. Nomlog, he's into the backside, but now the Stone Gaze has been popped, and there's your egg out as well. Nomlog, he's going to try and run for his life, but he may not make it out. He is down, but he will have buyback. The problem, you don't have Ravage. It's X123, he needs the back right now. DB, he's doing a lot of damage in the arena. Ooh, it's a bit too early there from Wami, but they get to Tier 3 tower. And that may be enough for AG to just back off the safety.
Yep, they're just going to play it safe. They don't have any of their ults up. And you know, the Tiny and the Ice Blast can still rip right through them. Although, looks like a fake back. They do smoke up. They're going to re-engage.
It's certainly a fake back here from Army Geniuses. They're going to try and go back in and maybe put a lid on this game. You've got a buyback there on the Tide as well as Wami. He's going to jump in, but the speed does not latch. And that'll make it very obvious now that that was their plan. And this time around, AG should certainly be backing.
Yep, they don't really have too much pressure on the backs for AG right now. Good use of the Aegis. I think they only had a minute and a half until it expired on DB anyway, so that was the right time to push. Lilgun, they can't really do too much. No Ravage, but they are smoked up. Maybe get some deep wards back in their triangle. Looks like there is an Infest on Sanctity, so they'll look for a burst play on Stragglers here.
We'll see if they can find it. Thing is, AG, they're not really alone. They're all together. And that makes it quite challenging to be able to actually pick somebody off. They'll get some wards down. That's going to be really about it. Seems like both teams are probably just going to have to wait for that next Roshan to spawn up. Obviously, if you're Lilgun, you really can't afford to allow that next Roshan to go down. AG, though, you get that Roshan, you almost guarantee yourself the victory. Especially considering it has the shards and the cheese on top of the Aegis. And on top of that, John, now DB's got a BKB on the way. So that Avalanche Toss combination with the arrow, it's not going to matter anymore.
Yeah, none of it's going to matter. They don't have anything to pierce through that spell immunity that Arm Geniuses will have on their Dusa. Whereas AG's side, if the egg pops, it goes through spell immunity. Stone Gaze, not going to care for that as well. So they've got a lot of tools. Just scaling into that late game in terms of control as well. Whereas Lilgun, it's really Ravage and Avalanche Toss, and it doesn't really do much once those BKBs are propped. The Ice Blast is still going to be annoying, but not nearly enough to get that opportunity out. And AG, well, they smoke up. They should be a bit cautious about going into the Ravage,
Sanctity.
But again, with a BKB.
That's a big target, Sanctity. He's got a BKB up. He should be able to escape the X combo unless they get a spear. But no, the silence is there, the Mindbreaker. And now the Ravage is pretty darn big. The arena was already dropped, but is it going to matter? Egg is out as well. Lilgun, they need to run away. The damage is way too high. DB is just doing too much. And that silence, it looked like it may have been able to turn with the Ravage, but it seemed like once the egg came out and once DB got to work with that BKB up, they just couldn't do anything about it.
Just not the best result for Lilgun. It looked like, you know, Wami did hesitate, didn't manage to get the spear because of that hit, but they do switch their sights up to top. A bit of creep cutting coming out from Sanctity. They will be forced to defend 2 versus 4 now. Even with the respawns coming through from their Tide, Ravage is nowhere near close off cooldown. So their fight potential for the defense is just not there. Whereas the boat is going to be up in 10 seconds, arena up in 6. You're going to have some options for the team fight following through. And the BKBs are going to be off cooldown faster as well. So there's nothing to stop Army Geniuses from this push. And they're going to take at least 2 sets of racks.
Oh, this might cost him. He doesn't even get UK. And now the X back. He's going to die. It looked like a last-ditch kind of effort as they might just be ready to call it. 1 racks left, 3 down without buyback, and he just bought back on that tiny. Lilgun, they're on their last legs now. Army Geniuses just need to put a little in this game, and it looks like they are just about going to do that. It's DB, he'll go for a free reset there with Mamang Daya's X. Gets the SNY up to boot. So now a bit more status resist on the Medusa. And all they really need is a creep wave.
They do have the mid and top shoved in, so they can get through backdoor soon enough, and they can just start digging through. And DB's just not scared at all.
I don't think he has any reason to be. Happily go in, take that bot lane of barracks. X123, you've got to try. But again, it feels like they're on their last legs. Look at the damage out. Like DB, he doesn't even take anything. Mega creeps are about to be online, but Sanctity's in. He's going to try and fight, but the arena and Spear is there. They got the Lifestealer into the egg and the Sharpshooter. They call it. They knew immediately as that Spear connected, the game was over. And Army Geniuses, game 1 will go their way. Lilgun, the first 15-20 minutes looked really great for them. But after that, DB's Medusa just took over this game 1.
Yeah, the big issue there was that, again, they were getting aggression out. They weren't killing Medusa. DB was just left alone throughout all those engagements. I don't see the post game, so I can't give stats because the servers are dead or something. But yeah, like they couldn't catch DB out with that blink with all these fights. They were fighting everyone else, which is exactly what Army Geniuses wanted. DB was just allowed to free farm in the triangle. They were trying to get the same thing done with X123, but a Lifestealer can't keep up with farm the same way Medusa does. It just doesn't work that way. And once they were ready to play with X123, I mean, DB would pop in for a couple of fights. They would lose, but the recovery farm was still big enough, and that lead he had was significant enough that it didn't put a major dent to Army Genius's game plan. I love that DB went for this different build as well. Not going for the Ags, not going for the Shard, just a pure right-click Medusa that was ready to go the moment a couple of items were in. He was just ready to get the damage off, and that's just really smooth coming out from Army Genius's. Lilgun, they had some moments of brilliance, but I think they're going to have to relook at their draft, take a look back, and reconsider their game plan going up against AG. If AG wants to farm, they have to be ready to play even faster than they did in game 1 here.
No, I certainly agree with that. And of course, we are going to get into game 2, assuming there's no coordinator issues. You never know, John. We just had a bit of an issue just then. So, yeah, no promises, but it should be roughly 10 minutes before we are back. It's MLP Dota and JohnXFire. We'll be 10 minutes before we get into game 2's draft. See you then.